Hello everybody, this is Shady here, and today I'm going to do a buying guide for what is, in my opinion, the greatest console of all time, the incredible PlayStation 2. This is obviously the slimline console, so basically, obviously, I'm going to just kind of go over the system, everything you basically need to know if you're looking to buy one, and I'm also going to give some recommendations of some games as well. So yeah, obviously, I'm pretty sure everyone knows this by now, but the PlayStation 2 is like the biggest selling console of all time. 160 million units sold, apparently. That was something that Jim Ryan spoke about earlier in the year. He gave an updated number on the console. Obviously, yeah, we thought it was 156, but yeah, it's 160 million. So no console's ever going to beat that. I mean, the DS wasn't able to do it. The Switch, I think it's a bit too late for it now because obviously Switch 2 is going to be out next year. But yeah, it's just an amazing system. It's like easily my favorite system of all time. I just think, this system, it represents what I think was the peak of gaming. Don't get me wrong, I do love like gaming now, and this 7th, 8th gen, all that was great. But yeah, this was just like the 6th gen was just an amazing time in gaming. Obviously, we had this amazing thing right here with the Dreamcast, original Xbox, the GameCube. All 4 systems were amazing, did something so unique. And it was a great time because these companies were used to 3D gaming at this point. They knew what they were doing, but there was still like some experimentation, and there was a lot of interesting games that just wouldn't be done nowadays, or I suppose would be indie games or whatever now, or smaller titles, but they're few and far between. But yeah, back here we have like the bigger companies doing these crazy things, and I think this was definitely like the golden age for a lot of like Japanese developers and stuff, even though I think nowadays they're kind of coming back into that kind of golden era. But yeah, obviously, let's talk about the system first. Obviously, I only have this model now, which is the slimline model. Really tiny thing. Just look how small it is. It's like the size of basically like just a bit bigger than a DVD, essentially. Like a DVD and a half or something. But yeah, this thing is amazing. Obviously, it's a top loader. This system actually doesn't work perfectly at the moment. I need to get a new one. But yeah, when it comes to the system itself, there's really just 2 models. We have the original fat model and then this slim model. There was like a couple of variations, obviously. You have the original Japanese PS2 model, which didn't have the expansion bay for the hard drive, and then the model of the revision of that added that basically. Also, from what I know, the original models, the DVD lenses weren't so great, and I think there was another variation on top of that that improved that. And then the slim model, I think there was technically a couple of different versions of the slim. I can't quite remember what the difference is. I think maybe the USB ports aren't there or something, or there's a couple of differences with the revision for the slim. But yeah, basically you're looking at the fat and the slim, and pretty much nowadays, you're either just buying, the real difference is if you want to buy the fat, it'll be because you want to do something with that expansion bay, or you're just looking to, you just like the look of that original model, really. The slims are definitely the more reliable ones, but like I was saying, there's cool mods and things you can do, like you can install a hard drive to run games directly from the drive. If you prefer, you can just copy your games onto it. There's all these like custom firmwares and all sorts you can do. When it comes to like the modding scene, you're looking at the fat really, if that's what you're interested in. But obviously, if you're just looking to play the games and collect, probably better off going with the slim. But yeah, that's pretty much it with the model. And then the controller, obviously you just have the standard DualShock 2. There was randomly, like Sony, when they lost the rights for the DualShock, there was non-DualShock 2s, or just regular analog controllers. If you're interested, between that period, for a year or so with the PS3 before they had it, it was same with they were still making PS2 controllers, and those PS2 controllers don't have the DualShock. There was a video by the YouTuber Mystic where he was unboxing those, if you're interested. He's just like, all things PlayStation, go to that guy, he's amazing. The system, like I said, pretty much, obviously, it's one of the things, doesn't use HDMI. So obviously to get the best picture quality, you do want to probably play on a CRT with these systems. What's great though is with the PS2, because obviously Sony was like a multimedia company, there was a lot of cool features in this console. Obviously it plays DVDs, which was awesome, which was like one of the biggest selling points. At the time, it was like the cheapest DVD player you can get on the market, and obviously it was also a games console as well. And then yeah, it does have a digital optical out, so you can do like surround sound and all that. It was also compatible with component cables, so you can actually get some component cables. I think if I'm correct, Gran Turismo 6 allows you to do 1080i, which is insane. And I think there's a couple other games that allow you for slightly higher resolutions, like mainly 480i. I think it would be a couple of 480p games. You'd have to look at that yourself. I think when it comes to that, original Xbox is better because it has a lot of like 1080i games in comparison to the PS2. But yeah, that was one of the cool things. And obviously there are you know, HDMI adapters that people do, like cheap ones, but that is literally just converting that signal, a 480i or whatever signal, to a, you know, to be received in a 1080p sort of thing, or be able to be used on a newer TV, if that makes sense. So it will still be that lower resolution, but just it allows it to feed through. You can look at other ways of upscaling. There's the M Classic and some other things, RetroTink, all that, if you're interested. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, yeah, you do have emulation as well if you're interested. But obviously, this video is for people looking to collect. So like I said, you're basically really just wanting to get either the regular or the slim. That's pretty much it. Nice and straightforward. They did do a lot of really cool colors as well. Obviously, you have this silver model. There's the black model. That black was the standard model. You had a white model. There's like a red, a blue, all sorts of just really cool colors if you're interested. I think there was a bunch that were just like Japanese exclusive though. I think there was like a really cool looking yellow one and stuff. But yeah, that's one of the other cool things as well. But yeah, mainly you're going to see the black and the silver are the two kind of main ones you're going to see with both the fat and the slim. But yeah, you know, I think the black looks cool anyway. This silver's awesome. There was even like a pink one I remember, which was like, I think it was like bundled with like some Hannah Montana game or something like that, like a singing type game. So yeah, that might be something you want to look into. A cool little hot pink game console, which is cool. But yeah, it is pretty straightforward. Obviously, with these old systems, you can probably see, you know, there is the memory card slot. You're going to need a memory card. Yeah, Sony had their own official ones, and there's like a bunch of unofficial ones as well. I would say just stick with the officials, because obviously I've had friends and people who have had issues with saves corrupting and stuff like that on the unofficial ones. There is this really cool adapter you can get where it basically just allows you to put a micro SD card in there, and then you can just have a ton of saves, like 1,000 saves or something, like way more saves than you'd ever need. So that's something you may want to look into. But the memory cards are really cheap, like a few quid at most. Yeah, and I'm sure most people who, when you're buying one, they'll probably just have a memory card thrown in there. So yeah, you really don't have to worry too much. And yeah, that's pretty much it with the hardware. It's very straightforward. Obviously, if you're looking at accessories, there's quite a few cool ones there. You have the light cons as well. This is where I said you're going to want to look at getting a CRT TV really if you want to play them, because you can't play them on the flat panels. It has to be on the CRT TVs. So I think you have like Time Crisis 3 and 4. Yeah, I believe it's those ones. And there was like Vampire Survivor, a couple of them just random cool arcade shooters. There is the Resident Evil Survivor game as well. There was one based on like Code Veronica. I think it's just Resident Evil Survivor 2 or something. Obviously, yeah, you have the first one on the PS1, and then the sequel was on the PS2. A really cool one that I love is Resident Evil Dead Aim. That's a cool game because it's third person and you move around like a regular Resident Evil game, but when you're fighting, it goes first person and you can use a light gun, which really you can just play with the controller as well if you don't have a CRT. But it's a really cool experience because I remember me and my mate, I picked it up around his house. We ended up like, I think we just powered through the whole game in one night. He was firing with the light gun, I was moving around. It was really cool. It's kind of a cool co-op way of playing the game, which is awesome. It'd probably be a little bit more difficult if you're playing on your own, because you'd have to have one control in one hand and using the light gun in the other. But still really awesome though. But yeah, that's one thing you want to look at. You've got your steering wheels, them sort of things, arcade sticks, all that sort of thing. If you want a wireless controller, you'd have to go with a third-party one. Sony never actually did an official one, unlike Nintendo with the Wavebird. Even though I think the Wavebird was technically not Nintendo, but it was licensed by them. So, but yeah, if the wired one's fine though. Yeah, you know, controller's great as it is. But next up, let's get to the most important part, which is the games. I want to talk about something a little bit more interesting, a few more unique games. So let's start off here. Okay, I want to talk about, obviously we're going to talk about a few of the big ones, but I want to talk about some interesting games as well. So first of all, we have Puyo Puyo Fever. This is a really cool game. So I don't know if you guys have ever played any of the Puyo Puyo games. You probably have. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine was the first Puyo Puyo game we got over here. Most of them were like Japanese exclusive games. So yeah, it's called Puyo Puyo. It's basically like these little bean things. There's 4 different colors. You have to connect them together. And then yeah, and when you have multiple, they'll destroy each other. Kind of like a Candy Crush type of game, basically. Tetris Candy Crush type thing. The newer games you have Puyo Puyo Tetris, which is both combined. You can play them both together and stuff. It's a really cool game. But this is this was meant to be like the big game to relaunch Puyo Puyo properly in the West. So obviously we had Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. I don't think we had any other Puyo Puyo games besides that, unfortunately. And yeah, this was like to relaunch it around. And then obviously you got this character here, Amethy. And yeah, there's all these really cool looking characters you can see. And what's really cool is it actually has somewhat of a story mode for a puzzle game, which is the cool thing about it. And it's even cooler in the Puyo Puyo Tetris games because you have all of them combining into one and everything. But yeah, just a really fun little game. I just love puzzle games, and this is one of my favorites. So this was also, I think this was also on original Xbox and GameCube, but yeah, the PS2 version is a lot cheaper. I think you're looking at maybe 15 at the most or something. Yeah, really cool game. And yeah, definitely worth picking up. Next up, just a legit classic. Yeah, Devil May Cry, the first one. Obviously, you got all 3 Devil May Cries on here, the first 3. But I just still love this game. I've done a whole playthrough of this game on my channel. That's how much I love it. It's one of these games that I basically play like once a year. I'm sure everyone knows this already by now, but this was obviously originally one of the concepts for Resident Evil 4. But obviously it was way too like different, and actually they turned it into its own game. And yeah, it's one of the coolest series ever. And obviously yeah, done by Hideki Kamiya, who obviously then did his spiritual successor Bayonetta. So, but unfortunately, he's left Platinum, and we're probably never going to get another game like that again. Hopefully he does another spiritual successor, which would be awesome. Or like maybe Capcom bring him back to do Devil May Cry 6 or something. That'd be cool. I mean, saying that, Devil May Cry 4 and 5 were great even without him. So, but yeah, just a legit classic. Yeah, Dante's like one of my favorite characters ever. And for a game released in what, like 2002 or whatever it was, 2000 or something. It says 2000 there, but I think it was 2001 when it actually released. It holds up really freaking well. Like the combat is great. They improved it in later games, but the base is really good. Like there's so many series where the first game can be quite hard to get back to or go back to in comparison to other games, but with this game it still holds up really well and it's amazing. Yeah, just one of my absolute favorites. Next up, I want to talk about an amazing racing game, Ridge Racer 5. I always have to talk about Ridge Racer, one of my favorite series. Yeah, and this game is amazing. This was actually like one of the big launch titles for the PlayStation 2. And what made this so great is obviously it was full 60 frames a second and everything. Looked amazing, especially in comparison to like Ridge Racer Type 4, which I talked about in my PS1 collection videos, which was the previous video I did, I think, on the channel. But yeah, just an amazing upgrade. And yeah, I think this was like the only Ridge Racer game for the PS2 as well. But yeah, it's really good, a lot of fun. You're interested, Digital Foundry did like a video on, I think, this game in particular. Yeah, they did like a DF retro talking about, I think they compared Ridge Racer Type 4 to this, and yeah, it's just awesome. But yeah, just a great game, I really love it. Yeah, I want to talk about a few RPGs now. Everyone knows I love JRPGs in particular. And first of all, we're going to talk about this one. This is Unlimited Saga. This is a weird one, because I'm talking about this game, and I don't really think it's a great game, but it's an interesting game, and it's only on the PS2. So this is basically like a massive RPG. You play as like 7 different characters. Each one has their own campaign. You have this massive world to explore, but there's no like actual 3D elements or anything. You're basically just going through different menus, and like the game is really kind of difficult to kind of understand. There's so much you're doing. You're going through like, imagine if like a map screen was a game. That's basically what it is. And the only kind of like like I was saying, 3D type elements are in the battles. I'll show you the back there if you can even see it. Yeah, it's just a really interesting game. Yeah, you can see all the characters over there. Yeah, it's one that at least give a go. See how you feel about it. Yeah, it's like, I think you probably, if you like you know the battles and menuing and all of the preparation parts of all the menuing aspects of RPGs, I think you probably will get something out of this. It's kind of cool. There's even like a whole YouTube series just discussing, like, explaining how this game even works, because the game does quite a bad job at that. And I think that's the main thing, the main issue with the game, really. And then, yeah, obviously we've got to talk about Shadow Hearts, just an absolute classic. We got some quite unfortunate news recently where basically the guy who created the Shadow Hearts games, he wanted to do his own spiritual successor, Penny Bloodfall or something, I think it was going to be called. But unfortunately, yeah, he wasn't able to get a publisher, so I don't know when the hell that's coming out. But yeah, Shadow Hearts is an awesome game. What's great about this is it has like horror elements, and it's kind of set in our world, but in like the 1930s or something, or 20s or something like that. And I think I spoke about this already. It's the early 1900s, I think. But yeah, I spoke about Kudelka in my PS1 collection. This is kind of like the successor to that. So Kudelka is actually a character in this game that you meet as an old lady. But yeah, really cool. So we have Yuri, our main character, and Alice, the girl there. And he's basically protecting this girl. And then we have, I think it's Richard Bacon is the main guy you can see there. And Yuri's basically, yeah, he has to help her. But what's really cool about Yuri is he has this power where he can kind of like transform into these demon things, almost like Vincent in Final Fantasy VII or something. And that's really cool. And it has this thing called the Judgment Ring system, where when you're choosing your actions, you have to hit these things on a ring to be able to do extra damage or something. It can be a little annoying, but I guess it's designed to make the turn-based battle more engaging. So really cool game. And obviously, there's also a sequel. I love this game. Obviously, not just because the main girl is a redhead, and that's usually all it takes for me. But no, yeah, it's an amazing game. This is like a great sequel. Yeah, obviously, this is Karen, I think her name is. She kind of, I think she's trying to, she gets help from Yuri, and they have to like fight another bad guy, basically. But it's really cool. Quite a big graphical upgrade from the original. The original was like an early PS2 title, and this was like a late one. This one's also in 2 discs, so just remember that when you pick it up. Yeah, just a really cool sequel. A lot of fun as well. This one is a little bit less horror kind of inspired, a bit more lighter in tone and everything, but just a really fun game. I actually like 100% this game back in the day. It's really awesome. I need to get back to play this again one day. But yeah, there's also a third game as well, which doesn't have Yuri or anyone. It's called Shadow Hearts: The New World or something. I still haven't got that one yet. I want to pick that up at some point, give that one a go. But yeah, the Shadow Hearts games are great. And yeah, if you like JRPGs, they're must-owns on the PS2. The PS2 was just amazing for them, wasn't it? Yeah, let's talk about another couple of JRPGs now. Obviously, yeah, Final Fantasy X. I've done a whole video just talking about this game, and I've spoken about it a million times. Just one of my favourite games of all time. My favourite Final Fantasy game ever. Yeah, you have to buy this, pretty much. A little bit of a caveat, though. Obviously, the NTSC version, or the American version, is based off the standard version. Our PAL version is based off the international version. So, yeah, you don't get Dark Aeons or Penance or the Expert Spear Grid in the standard version as you do with the international one, if that made sense. And yeah, if you're looking to pick this game up, yeah, you might want to get the newer version. But in my opinion, I still prefer this one because they changed like the face models. I mean, they don't look bad, but yeah, they changed the face models in the remaster that they did for like PS3 onwards. And yeah, they wanted, I think they designed them to look more like they do in the actual cutscenes. But in my opinion, they don't look as good as they do in the original, personally. So I still have a soft spot for this version. So, but like I said, it's available on everything now, so it's up to you. Yeah, it's just a great game. Next up, another Final Fantasy game I want to mention. It's just Final Fantasy 12. I think a lot of people have come around to this one now. I absolutely love this game, by the way. But yeah, obviously the Zodiac Age is out now, and obviously that's probably the version everyone knows. But this is actually this is like the original version of the game. It's very different. It doesn't have like the job system like the international Zodiac version, and obviously there's loads of other differences. But yeah, it's quite a unique version. So you have a single license board for everyone, and yeah, you don't have trial mode, and I think there's a couple other differences in here and there. But yeah, it's a unique version that's only on here. So obviously the International Zodiac version was a Japanese exclusive for so long. We never got it over here. And yeah, this game came out quite late on. Like, I think we got it over here at like, we got it by like 2006. And by that time, it was like almost like the 360 was out and PS3 hype was around the corner. I think it might have been out in Japan by that point, the PS3. I think it was 2005 in North America and Japan, but we got it 2006. So, but yeah, it's an amazing game. And if you want to play like the original version of it, obviously you don't have the speed up feature and like a couple other bits, like I said. Give this version a go. It's still great. Yeah, I really love Final Fantasy 12. Next up, I want to talk about a few horror games now. So obviously we have Project Zero. This is a really cool game. So obviously this is called Fatal Frame everywhere else, but it's Project Zero here in our neck of the woods in the PAL areas. Obviously the Made in the Blackwater and what was it, Moon of the Eclipse or whatever, 4 and 5 did get remasters recently. But the first 3 are on the PS2, and I think 2 and 3 are on like the original Xbox. So yeah, if you want to play the older games, you have to get these PS2 versions. So yeah, and this is the first game. So obviously in this one, playing as the girl, as you see there, and she's like basically trying to rescue her brother from like Haunted Mansion. And she has this thing called the Camera Obscura. And you basically, the only way to do damage to these enemies, which are ghosts, is you have to actually get the camera out, go into first person and like take pictures of them. So it's really cool. Yeah, just a very unique horror game. If you want like a very kind of traditional Japanese style game, or horror type game, this is one for you really. Obviously it is an old school RPG, old school survival horror game. So you got the whole tank controls, all that. But yeah, really cool game. I think it's definitely worth checking out. Next up, another really unique one, Hunting Ground. Yeah, or Haunting Ground, whatever it's called. Hunting Ground, yeah. Yeah, I'm obviously dyslexic if you didn't know. So, yeah, this is a really interesting game. So this is obviously another one that's just on the PS2. We play as this girl who's basically been kidnapped, trapped in this mansion. Very clock tower vibe. She has to kind of hide from her pursuers, and she's trying to escape this place. And then she has, as you can see, she has the dog who's there to protect her. And like, how you treat the dog is kind of a big gameplay thing, like petting it and doing all these things, treating it nice, and it will like help you out and stuff. Really cool little system, just an interesting AI system in the game, which is cool. And yeah, as you can see, yes, it is Capcom. So Capcom did a horror game that wasn't Resident Evil. Like, who would have thought? And also another weird part is this, the main girl in this, she actually looks just like Jill does in Resident Evil 5, which is weird. So they basically reused this model for Jill in Resident Evil 5, which is just weird to me. I don't know why that makes me so excited, but yeah. Yeah, another game I want to talk about, another horror game. Silent Hill 4, The Room. The reason why I want to talk about this one is because yeah, this one is was never like ported or anything. So we have this version, there's the one on original Xbox, and then there is a version on GOG that you can pick up. And yeah, this is just so cool because yeah, there's like a lot of weird misinformation about this game, and there's yeah, I feel like a lot of people never really gave it a chance. So there's this kind of rumor that this game was originally not going to be a Silent Hill game, and then they just slapped the Silent Hill name on it and, you know, tried to get sales. But that's not true, because there is actually a connection to Silent Hill 2 in this game, and they actually reference it in Silent Hill 2. Yeah, like the hole in the bathroom that it goes into, and one of the characters is the dad of James and stuff. So I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, it is a really cool game. So we're playing as this bloke. I can't find his name now. But yeah, he's basically trapped in his room, in his apartment, hence the room. And yeah, he can only escape through this like wall, this hole in his bathroom wall. And then it takes him to these different walls, and he has to fight all his enemies. And then you kind of, I think it's like 4 or 5 different levels you go into. And then between those, you also have all the stuff you do in the apartment. It's a really kind of unique, interesting horror game. And it looks really amazing. And what I really like is all the apartment parts are first person, so feels very similar to what PT would do later on. And obviously you've got the traditional kind of third person type survival horror game when you're in the other areas. And yeah, it's just a really cool game. Also, the main villain looks like Brendan Fraser, so that's a plus on my part, you know. And then finally, I want to talk about one of my absolute favorite games of all time, Metal Gear Solid 2. In fact, this is my favorite game of all time. And yeah, this is just, it's just an amazing game, you know. Yeah, oh my god, where do I even begin, you know? Well, the thing with this game is we have, obviously it's a sequel to the first Metal Gear Solid, but what I love about this game is it's, you know, this is what Kojima does so great. There's this whole meta-narrative about this game. So it's a game about having to be the sequel to Metal Gear Solid in a way. And I'll explain that to you a little bit now, what I mean by that. So obviously, you know, in this game, I'm sure this isn't a spoiler at this point, and if you haven't played it, then spoiler alert, and play the game please, because it's amazing. Okay, spoilers from now. Yeah, we don't actually play as Snake, we play as another character called Raiden, who essentially is going through the exact same plot as the first game. So yeah, the game almost beat for beat is like the same thing, and then the game is kind of referencing the fact that it's doing this. It's not like shy about the whole thing. And obviously we're playing as someone who's basically like a Snake fanboy, essentially, as well. And then there's this whole thing at the end where we find out that this is a part of the S3 project where they're trying to raise the Ultimate Soldier, or in other words, they're trying to work out the formula to copy Metal Gear in a way. So it's about being, both about being the sequel and the expectations of being the sequel to Metal Gear Solid, and also it feels to me like it's a statement on, well, a deconstruction of the first game in a lot of ways, where they're trying to figure out what are the elements that actually makes Metal Gear. Is it Snake? Is it just the villains? Is it this, that, and the other? Very kind of, yeah, very kind of high concept, if that's the right word. I don't even know. I think that means the opposite, actually. Yeah, it's just an amazing game. And there's a lot of like great predictions about how we kind of work with technology nowadays, or how we, you know, how the internet and all that sort of stuff works and all that. Obviously, yeah, there's people out there who can explain it much better than me. But yeah, it's just an amazing game. I think, yeah, it's a game that at the time I felt like there's a lot of people who hated on it because you play as Raiden, not Snake, not really kind of understanding the point. You know, Kojima was kind of, you know, he's posing the idea that, you know, it's not, Snake isn't as important as you think he is to the plot or whatever, you know what I mean? You know, there's another element that I really like is the fact that we're kind of, you know, Raiden almost feels like us in a way, where we kind of, where he thinks Snake is this cool guy and everything, and where Snake is like, you know, there's just this great thing where he says, I can't remember what the line is, I've played it so many times, but he basically says heroes aren't all they're made out to be, or something like that, because he's pretending not to be Snake during the game, which is another weird thing. But yeah, you know, always like that aspect of it, where, you know, Snake is a soldier, so he's not really someone who you should really be kind of thinking is cool or whatever. I think that's one thing I like about Kojima. Yeah, but it's an amazing game anyway. And yeah, the PS2 is just a great console, by the way, so I really think it's one that you need to actually pick up. Yeah, get yourself either one of the two models, the fat, the slim. You get a controller, make sure you get a memory card. And yeah, as I was saying, these are just some of the games that I would recommend. Obviously, you've got tons of other ones. Shadow of the Colossus, like probably one of the most amazing games ever made. Obviously, that version, frame rate wise, isn't the best, so you might want to look at the PS3 or the PS4 remake. And yeah, obviously, you've got the friggin' Time Splitters games. You've also got, obviously, Metal Gear Solid 3 as well. And how could I forget to mention, every PS2 is a PS1, so you've got the entire PS1 library there as well. And it's compatible with the controllers and everything as well, so when you're playing on the PS1. A few things I forgot to mention. Obviously, you will need a PS1 memory card when playing PS1. Also, if you want to do more than 2 players, you will need the multi-tap as well, which is another thing you might want to look into. Because obviously, like I said, Time Splitters and a few other games, some of the racing games would have 4-player modes. The wrestling games as well. Yeah, so you would need the multi-tap for that. And yeah, other fighting games like freaking Marvel vs. Capcom 2. One of the coolest fighting games ever made. Capcom vs. SNK 2. Probably my favourite fighting game of all time. And Street Fighter freaking 3 as well. Loads of great compilations. There was like the Mega Drive compilation as well. Like, that was so good. Obviously, there's been other ones, better ones later, but that one was really good. There was also like a PSP version of that one as well. I think it's just called Sonic's Mega Drive Collection or something. or just their Mega Drive collection. Yeah, there was a few like Atari ones, a few SNK ones, some Capcom ones. I think I mentioned this before, but in my PS1 video, again, I'm just going to keep plugging that video until you watch it. But yeah, the PS1 video, not the PS, what am I saying? You have a awesome version of Street Fighter 2 on the PS2 as well. It's this amazing collection where you get the movie and I think basically every version of Street Fighter 2 on like a single disc. I think the movie might be a separate disc, but yeah, that's one to look at. Yeah, there's even more horror games, RPGs, all sorts. Yeah, any game you can think of, it is on there. How could I forget GTA? Obviously you had 3, San Andreas, and Liberty City, all amazing games. Yeah, obviously I think Liberty City is the one everyone remembers. Yeah, or Vice City, sorry, Vice City. Liberty City is the place in GTA 3, isn't it? Yeah, Vice City, basically just like, you know, throwback to 70s kind of gangster movies and stuff. It's basically friggin' Scarface the game, essentially. Which you also have, let's not forget, Scarface the game, which is basically just a GTA game. Like, actually amazing as well. There's like a Godfather game as well, which is great. The Warriors game was really cool as well. And yeah, other racing games, you've got the Burnout games, and just so many amazing, like, I could just go on forever just talking about all the amazing games on the PS2. Like, you're not going to get tired of just collecting for this system if you do get into it. Obviously, the other thing you want to look at is, like I said, if you, for the light guns specifically anyway, look at getting a CRT TV. I'm sure you probably got one, like your parents or grandparents probably have one in storage somewhere. You know, so you don't necessarily need to go out of your way to get one. Like, I have one in my attic, so if I ever need to do that, I can just pop that out and do it. But yeah, that's the end of my video. I've kind of gone on enough for a tangent there. But yeah, so the PS2 is amazing. So yeah, if you're looking to collect, I hope this video helped. And yeah, I completely forgot to mention, the console itself is actually really cheap. The majority of the library is really cheap. And obviously, like, if you're looking to get some of these games, in comparison to something like the GameCube, the PS2 version is going to be so much cheaper. And same with the original Xbox as well. For some, like, there's some games you can end up paying half, even less, if you get the PS2 version as opposed to the GameCube version. Like something like Killer 7, I think that's like, I think on GameCube that's like a $70+ pound game, and then on like, I think it's like 30-ish on the PS2. So yeah, but yeah, the PS2 is amazing. Thanks for watching the video. If you did, like, subscribe, all that awesome YouTube jazz, and hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.